How the grand solar flash could impact Earth. Is the solar flash happening now? What, if any, scientific evidence is there for the solar flash event in 2025? And what is the scientific evidence that solar flashes have already happened in the past on this planet? Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is Mahadev the Thunder Wizard. Stay for the entire video because I'm going to go through some very specific events and we're going to be looking at actual scientific evidence for what might be creating an evolutionary event on planet Earth. This is the Thunder Wizard YouTube channel. Welcome if you're new to the official gathering place for all 5D star seeds and light workers. And please, if you would, go to thunderwizard.com. You will find the most powerful energetic practices that have ever been released on planet Earth. Don't believe me? Give them a try. Also check out the shop for single practices and videos and courses. Check out my books at michaelwilliamdenny.com so you can learn more about what is going on with all the UFOs and UAPs. Are ETs real? I've communicated with them. I share my experiences in my books. All right, so we have a new meditation series. This is the guided interdimensional meditation series. There are 6 here: prosperity, career, relationships, health, joy, opportunity. And if you get the entire package, you will get a special gift, which is spiritual power. Most important thing I'd like to ask of you is to come every Wednesday and Saturday night. It's free to this channel, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We do live guided interdimensional meditations to bring about the Ascension event. I hope to see you there. You can also check out the already recorded live streams, which you can find in the live section on this channel. All right, let's get back to this. How exactly is the grand solar flash impacting planet Earth? Is it happening? Let's take a look at some of the evidence. Welcome back to the channel. All right, so as you know, this has been something I've talked a lot about. And as you also know, I am all about practical, real world proof of things. So if I can't physically experience something and prove it, I'm not interested in it. So I'm going to be sharing with you not only my experiences, my observations, but we're going to talk about the scientific evidence for this, because we are going through some kind of solar event, no matter who you talk to. That is for sure. The world has gone through massive transformation the past few years. That is also for sure. But the question is, has this happened in the past? And let's take a look at radiation. So solar events are radiation events. And that's what's hitting Earth whenever we get a solar storm, is higher amounts of solar radiation. So what is this radiation? What does it do? We're going to take a look at some of the things that are going on. Just what is surprisingly happening to animals, animal populations over time after they have been inundated with unreal amounts of deadly radiation. So let's just dive into all of this. All right, so evidence for grand solar flash in 2025. Increased gamma solar radiation effect on DNA. Let's talk about that. So let's talk about the solar flash event. So the solar flash event is not a new thing. I didn't hear about it until after 2022, which is when I had my first encounters with extraterrestrial beings. I did, if you're not familiar with it, it's called CE5, or Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind Protocol. People, I encourage people to be smart and to be self-motivated. I'll talk about something like CE5 and people will put in the comments, what is CE5? My response is real simple. Google it and find out. So you should be doing that before you ask a question. Because the amount of time it takes you to write what is CE5 and then wait days for me to respond, within the time it would take to type that out into your browser, you would get an answer. So, but I digress. CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind Protocols. This is something that was introduced to the world by Dr. Stephen Greer, and according to him, it is a protocol that he co-invented with extraterrestrials who were finding a way to communicate with humans. Now, why would you think about this for a second, why would you think extraterrestrials would need to talk to a human about how to create a communication protocol? Why would they need that? Well, it has everything to do with what we're talking about. Because what we're talking about is radiation hitting the Earth. So frequencies of radiation, frequencies of light hitting the Earth. So what I have found out, which I would not have known, there was no way I would have known this until after I had made contact with extraterrestrials, is that it's impossible for a third dimensional human to just communicate with an extraterrestrial if they are in a higher frequency or if they are in a higher dimension. Now, there's no way that we would know that. There's no way I could have known that until after I experienced it. This is how I know people want to, when I talk about this stuff, I made another video yesterday and people want to say, well, I think so. I say, this person isn't, I know this person is not communicating with ETs. I know this scenario, people are not communicating with ETs, and somebody will write in, well, I think they are. Well, you can think that all you want, but it tells me two things. It tells me you haven't communicated, so you're taking somebody else's word for it. I can tell within the first few words whether or not somebody has had actual interaction with extraterrestrials, and I can tell when somebody hasn't. So the way that I know that, of course, is because I've experienced it extensively. And what I'm here to tell you is that extraterrestrials are nothing like what you've been shown in the movies and what you're being told in the media right now with all this UFO, UAP, all of the so-called whistleblowers. The majority of them are either liars or are deluded. Many of them are lying. Many of them are lying to you. For instance, anybody who claims that they have been abducted by extraterrestrials, they have been abducted. They're not lying about that. They have gone through very strange, even supernatural events. They have been spoken to telepathically by beings. They have been experimented on. Their fluids have been used for hybrid programs. That is all true. What is not true is that extraterrestrials are conducting these abductions. These abductions are being conducted by human beings who are using all kinds of very powerful technology, drugs, frequencies into the brain, costumes, robots, and they're using the reverse engineered technology they have taken from extraterrestrials they have shot down. And they use all that to create false alien abductions. But the people who go through them are not lying, and their experiences are real. Now, before you argue with me about that, you have to go and study this. So I encourage you to go to, I'll put a link here below, and you can check out the archives. And in these archives, you will find the evidence that proves that human beings have been creating these abduction events and have been deceiving people into believing that it's being conducted by extraterrestrials. So how is it that I know that extraterrestrials don't abduct? Well, because abduction events, when you look at them, are always in the third dimension. A being is walking up to you. A being is then communicating to you telepathically. A being is holding you down on a table. A being is injecting you or experimenting on you. They're walking around. Let me give you what really happens when you go on to an extraterrestrial craft in your physical body. Now, this doesn't mean that this has to be the only way, but this is the most likely scenario. And I've spoken with somebody, or I've communicated with somebody who shared this, and I believe this is how it's done. So this person claimed that their grandmother went on a ship, physically. There's a difference, by the way. Lots of extraterrestrials will take you onto their ships in your astral form, so in your meditations or even when you're asleep. But that's obviously not the same, even though it's very real and you can bank on that event. But we're talking about physically going onto an extraterrestrial ship. And this woman said her grandmother had been taken on a ship, and what happened is that she was at home. The way I remember it, I may not have all the details, but if I do, this is how I remember it. She was at home and she was communicating with some powerful spiritual being which told her, come outside and meet us. And so she went outside, and sure enough, there was an extraterrestrial flying saucer, and it was parked, I think she lived out in the woods. It was parked out in the woods there. So she's looking around. She doesn't see anybody. This is important. She didn't see anybody. And then she felt a telepathic communication and the energy that said, come inside the ship. So she felt all the love, she felt safe, and she had communicated with these beings before, so she trusted them. She went onto the ship. There was nobody inside the ship. Door closes, and she can feel the presence of beings, but she can't see them. And she feels this communication that says, go ahead and sit down. But there's literally no furniture there, so she just sort of sits down into the air, and sure enough, some kind of energy surrounds her rear end, and she's able to sit down. Then they take her out into space, and she's able to look at her planet Earth. That is the kind of thing that I would believe. And why is that? Because I've experienced extraterrestrials in my physical space. And I know what it's like to be able to look and not see anything in the third dimension, and feel what's going on, close your eyes and see them. See them, in some cases working on me energetically. Some of them, lots of them, in one place. That's because extraterrestrials are higher dimensional beings. And higher dimensional beings have higher energy, much higher, more concentrated energy. And this has everything to do with the solar flash event, because the solar flash event is about being hit with higher frequency gamma radiation. So I kind of went off script here, but let's see what I was going. So increased gamma solar radiation effect on DNA. All right. So we know that radiation affects DNA. And in some cases, obviously, if you get hit with a huge dose of massive radiation, from a nuclear reactor or something, it will destroy the DNA. You'll die very quickly. So we know that it destroys DNA. But what science has also uncovered is that evolution is driven by higher frequency gamma radiation that hits the Earth from outside of Earth. And solar radiation does this as well. So let's take a look at this further. So let's take a look at the Chernobyl survival mutations 40 years after disaster. So I remember the Chernobyl disaster. I was alive when that happened. And of course, they created this, dead zone. There was cities and towns, and it's still, I think you can't go there because the radiation levels are so high. So understandably, a lot of the wildlife died off because the radiation killed them all. But what is happening now is very interesting. So the what is it? So the survival mutations. So there's all different. They've been testing all the animals there. One of them is wolves. So there are wild wolves now in Chernobyl, and they're living in this very high radiation zone. And they have been testing the wolves' blood, and they've been finding that the wolves have mutated, and they now have stronger immune systems than they did before as a result of responding to the radiation. Now, this supposedly is impossible. This shouldn't be happening, but it is. What does that mean? It means that radiation, even the negative radiation, after the first few generations, the animals start to evolve into something different. And so the wolves that are there are actually technically a different species than other wolves anywhere else in the world, because their DNA has mutated in a positive way. It's actually given them more strength and more immunity. So bear in mind that higher radiation levels hitting us is what is going to create a new evolution process, and I'll talk more about that as we go on. So let's talk about the extinction of Neanderthals and the rise of humans during another solar flash event. So, there was another. So here's what we got going on right now. We are in a solar cycle. I believe it's called solar cycle 25, where the poles of the sun have shifted. And when the magnetic poles of the sun are shifting, then the sun becomes very unstable and it releases a lot of solar energy. So we experienced this, at least from my perspective, we experienced the bulk of this in 2023. I remember in the first months of 2023, we were getting bombarded with huge amounts of solar flash. In fact, some people were comparing some of the solar flares that hit Earth and the CMEs that hit Earth. They were comparing that with the Carrington event. Some people say no, it wasn't the same, but some people were saying no, in terms of the amount of radiation, it was very similar to that. So that was a huge solar storm that hit the Earth. So we have been hit with that, not just once, but many, many, many times. And if we were to take all of the radiation, pile it up, it would dwarf that one Carrington solar event. So if we look at it over time, we have been bombarded with huge amounts of solar radiation that have hit the Earth. Now, my personal experience was my spiritual experiences went through the roof. I mean, I was barely in my body those first months of 2023. The solar storms, what they ended up doing. So if I want to go back to something I said earlier about why the CE5 protocol was invented. Because as I said, remember that it was impossible for higher dimensional extraterrestrials to communicate directly to humans. The reason for that is electromagnetic fields. So Earth has its own electromagnetic field, and it vibrates at a specific frequency. I forget what that's called. You know what that's called. The Earth has a specific frequency. Well, guess what? That frequency does not align with the frequency that extraterrestrials live at, because they are in a higher dimension. That's why the woman who was taken on the ship, she couldn't see the beings. They were there, she couldn't see them. They were communicating to her, but she couldn't hear them. She felt it, but she couldn't see it, she couldn't hear it. And that's because in a higher dimensional, higher frequency, they were phased out of our third dimensional electromagnetic frequency. So the Earth has a very specific frequency in our third dimension. So what we're talking about is a shift into a higher frequency altogether. And so the CE5 protocol is necessary because unless human beings make the decision and have the correct protocol to create a wormhole, to create an interdimensional portal, The extraterrestrial beings cannot communicate with you. You can't hear them. I know. I remember the first time I did CE5, first time I did it, I'd never communicated with an extraterrestrial like, physically before. And I was doing everything. I was following the protocol, and I was doing all the meditations, and I had my radio and all that, and nothing was happening. I got some mental images of some strange looking beings, very lovely, beautiful, wonderful beings, and they were wanting to speak with me, and I kind of got this feeling that there were beings over here standing around me, and they were watching me meditate. Of course, I look around and nothing's there, and I think I'm making it up. So I'm trying really hard. I'm really trying to get them to come and talk to me, and then these lights start shining on me. I was at the beach here in Florida, and I was waiting for something in the sky, but it wasn't coming from the sky, but these lights were shining from down the beach, and they were doing all kinds of strange, weird things, and I even videotaped them. And I talked myself out of it. I said, well, I must have made that up. Well, what was happening is that beings were communicating directly to me. I know because my radio was doing strange things. I know because I videotaped lights and other strange things happening. I even got a voice recorded that wasn't there. When I said, are you here? And the voice said, yes. So all of that was going on, but I couldn't sense it. Why? Because my frequency was too low. And I wasn't able to shift up to I'd never experienced it. I didn't know how to, and I wasn't able to shift up. So the CE5 protocols create a portal which starts with your permission. The other thing that happens is that you can't see or experience them. They're all around us. You can't see or experience them because your brain won't allow you to. Because to experience higher dimensional energy, it feels like it's killing you. Like spiritually, psychologically, emotionally, you feel like you're being torn apart. But what's happening is your consciousness is expanding beyond the third dimensional understanding. So you have to give your permission, and you have to do it in such a way where you consciously know you're going to do something that goes beyond the third dimension. And that is why you have to astrally exit Earth's atmosphere, because you have to exit Earth's electromagnetic field in order to be in a place where you can then communicate directly with higher dimensional beings. So the first part is you have to leave Earth's electromagnetic field, and then you have to give them permission. And unlike the people who believe in evil aliens that do all kinds of things like steal your soul and abduct you, the truth is that higher dimensional beings cannot, under any conditions, do anything against your will. They can never violate your boundaries. If they did, it would cause them such harm that they would shift completely out of their dimension and would be like for them going to hell. Nobody does anything that harms them. So, what does that have to do with solar storms? What ends up happening when we get hit with a solar storm is that the level of radiation that hits us actually lowers Earth's magnetic field. So the electromagnetic field around Earth gets weakened to the point where higher frequencies, the radiation, the higher frequencies can make it to Earth's, the surface of the Earth where we are. So this is why in 2023, the first months of 2023, I was barely in my body, and I was communicating during the day with extraterrestrials like crazy. It's because the electromagnetic field had been weakened, which is it's like a shield. It's a consciousness shield. This is also why at night, this is why people have better interaction with extraterrestrials, why they're more likely to see UFOs at night, why they're more likely, if they do CE5, to call extraterrestrials to come and visit them. They're more likely to do that because at night the electromagnetic field weakens. This is why people see ghosts at night. That's why when the sun comes up, vampires, die. Trolls turn to stone. and that's why ghosts disappear. Those are real things. Ghosts do disappear when the sun comes up, because as soon as the sun hits the earth, it creates a huge electromagnetic shield and ghosts can't manifest anymore. They don't have the power. We're in now third dimensional reality. The sun is hitting the earth and the earth creates that. So, what happened during, I'm getting to the extinction of Neanderthals and the rise of humans during the solar event. What happened? So, as it turns out, Neanderthals disappeared almost overnight. They were here one day and they were gone the next. Humans and Neanderthals existed together for a short while. You know, it was like, I don't know, it wasn't that long, 100,000 years or something like that. Then all of a sudden the Neanderthals disappeared. And then humans evolved into the humans that we are now. Why is that? As it turns out, we have two things going on. So we have a scenario going on where the Earth, the magnetic fields of the Earth are shifting around. And that creates what's called, I believe it's called an excursion event. I might have the wrong word, but it's something like that. And it means that the electromagnetic field weakens. So this happens just because the Earth is shifting the magnetic poles. When you combine that with a solar maximum, which we are in now, and solar maximum, a lot of solar storms are hitting the Earth. The combination, as I already said, solar radiation weakens the electromagnetic field of the Earth. If the electromagnetic field of the Earth is already weakened and you get hit with a lot of solar radiation, then the electromagnetic shield on the Earth weakens considerably. What ends up happening? All of the beings, the plants, the animals, the humans, they get hit with massive amounts of solar radiation, which affects the DNA. So this is happening now. We have these two events. We have the excursion event and we have the solar maximum. This is happening right now. That means we're getting huge amounts of solar radiation at once. This happened in almost exactly the same way, or perhaps in exactly the same way, when humans evolved and Neanderthals went extinct. So if we're just talking from a scientific understanding, it means that the solar radiation hit the DNA of the Neanderthals and made them unable to procreate. And the radiation hit humans in such a way where their DNA mutated and they evolved. Now, remember what I said about what's happening with the wolves. The wolves are living in a place that's deadly to us, but they're thriving in it. So the same kind of thing might have happened. The Neanderthals didn't have the ability. Their DNA wasn't able to evolve fast enough to give them more strength and immunity. They didn't, they had been for 400,000 years. Humans have only been on the planet for 100,000 years. They'd been on the planet for 400,000 years. So they had gotten very just specialized, and then all of a sudden massive change hit and they weren't able to adapt. Humans were a new species. So I said earlier that humans and Neanderthals were together for 100,000 years. I don't think that was true. It had to have been much less than that. Humans were a new species, so we were more adaptable. We got hit with the radiation and our DNA switched things on and we evolved. Neanderthals didn't. We are in this now. So, what does that mean? I don't know. Just from a scientific perspective, it means that human beings might be evolving into a new species. All right. Spiritual predictions of solar flash for over 20 years. So I didn't know anything about the solar flash until I had, after beginning my communications with extraterrestrials, you guys know about it, I had a dream. And in that dream, I saw some kind of event where the Earth changed, where the consciousness on planet Earth changed almost instantaneously. I'm still rethinking that because I don't really know what it meant. My thoughts about it before was it was going to be an instant. I thought it was going to happen in a week. I was emailing people that, in 2 weeks I'm not going to be here. I was literally doing that. I really believed it. That was in 2022, so that obviously didn't happen. So I'm rethinking what that means. I know there's going to be an event, and I know it's going to be worldwide, and I know it's going to shift consciousness. The question is, what exactly is that going to be, and how fast is that? Now, when this happened, I started talking about this, and I said, I think I must have been making this up. And people said, no, this is a real thing. It's called the event. It's called the solar flash. And people have been talking about it since, 2012 or before. And I went, what? And I looked at it and I went, oh my gosh, that's what it is. And for a long time, I really thought the solar flash was coming. As you guys know, on October 6th of last year, I thought it was coming. And I prepared myself. Obviously, it didn't come. I'm still here. But when I had that dream that was given to me by ETs, and then somebody talked about the solar flash, I called the ETs to me and I talked to them and I said, what is this event going to be? Is it going to be a fleet of spaceships? Because that's the only way I could imagine people having the same experience as me and evolving because they're communicating with these higher dimensional, very powerful beings. And the response was no. It is going to be a series of solar waves of love that are going to hit the Earth, penetrate all life on Earth, and consciousness will shift up. That has been what we have experienced. That has absolutely been the case. We have been hit with these solar events since December 21st of 2022. That's when a light being, as I was going to sleep one night, light beings came and told me, it's coming tomorrow. And sure enough, it did. That next day we got hit with a solar storm. I went outside, I could feel it, I could see it. And we got hit with those solar storms for months afterwards. And I definitely felt a huge shift within me. And that's when everything started changing. So they've been right about that. The question is it done? Are we done with it yet? That's the part we don't know. So those spiritual predictions of a solar flash event have been going on for over 20 years. So increased gamma radiation hitting Earth from galactic center. This is the most interesting thing. I've shared this with you guys before. If you're new, you haven't heard this. So the original talks about the event and the solar flash event is that people were saying, this was 20 years ago, people were saying that what they called the galactic sun, which is at the center of our galaxy, that's actually a black hole. We have a huge, massive black hole at the center of our galaxy. So they were saying that the central sun of our galaxy is going to release, this was 20 years ago they were saying this, that the central sun was going to release high frequency gamma radiation that would go through a wormhole to the center of our sun, and then our sun would release this radiation to Earth, creating the solar flash event. Now, if somebody were to tell me that back then, I would have said that is absolute ridiculous nonsense. It's just complete nonsense. If you were to tell that to a scientist, they would have said the same thing. That's complete nonsense. That's not how the universe works. So something interesting started happening. Very recently, scientists have been measuring a huge increase in gamma radiation hitting the Earth. Like, they can quantify it. They're measuring it. They're seeing it. Like, where is this coming from? And they're saying, and this is a quote from scientists who don't believe in any of this spiritual stuff or know anything about the solar flash. And I saw this in some videos that if you look around, you might be able to find them probably still on YouTube. And the scientists were saying that higher levels of gamma radiation are are pelting the Earth, and they have to be coming from the black hole at the center of our universe, because that is the only place that is capable of creating such high-level gamma radiations. And then they said, but also, it is somehow being delivered to the sun, because the gamma radiation is coming from the sun, and the sun is not capable of creating such high-frequency radiation. So here we have scientists saying exactly what, spiritual lunatics were saying 20 years ago, that the center of our galaxy was going to send high-level gamma radiation through a wormhole to the center of our sun, which would then send that directly to Earth. That's scientific evidence for the solar flash right there. Will solar flash be instantaneous or over time? I've sort of brushed by that, but that's my question. Listen, I want the solar flash to be an instantaneous event. I want that. I want that more than I want anything else. If it were up to me, I would make it happen. That hasn't happened yet. In 2022, if you would have told me that by 2025 you'll still be making videos about this, I would have said, no, I'm going to be off this planet by then. I won't be here. Well, unless the planet has changed and I'm on a different planet, I'm still here. So even though I want this to happen, I don't know that it is going to. And the truth is, I haven't been told that. By my extraterrestrial friends have never said that there is going to be an instantaneous flash. There are some people out there talking about it and channeling it. So I'm not trying to say they're wrong and I'm right. I'm only telling you what I know and what I've experienced. So I have to go based on that I don't know if there's going to be an instantaneous solar flash event or what is going to happen. I have been taken to what we would call the 5D frequency. I talked about it in my last video. So if you want to, you can go watch that. I talk about it in depth. But I've been taken there twice in my third dimensional state. And I don't know if that is exactly what it's going to feel like in the new post-flash world or not. I don't know. But I do know that even if everybody on Earth was in the same frequency that I was at, the world would be a heaven on earth. There'd be no government, there'd be no taxes, there'd be no money, there'd be no armies, there wouldn't be, you wouldn't have to pay for anything. Everything would be provided for you. There would be free energy, meaning like, devices the size of a matchbox that can power, which we have the technology to do that already, by the way. You just haven't been given that because we live in a petroleum-based economy, which means that you have to pay for everything. That's why, we have to use petroleum and coal and electricity, which is the same thing. We have to pay somebody for energy to heat our homes and power our homes and power our vehicles. And we have to run around on cars that are still, it's the same technology as 100 years ago. Cars have barely advanced at all. Maybe we got some computers inside, but other than that, it's still, the same engines on wheels, same thing as before. And planes haven't changed since the beginning, even though we have the technology, we have anti-gravity, we have everything that you would see in Star Trek and Star Wars, but it's been hidden from you because if you had access to this, nobody'd make any money. They make money off of selling you gasoline, off of selling you electricity, natural gas, which means all of that is necessary for all of the food production, all of the housing production, all of the industry. So everything is based on petroleum. You don't need petroleum if you have little matchboxes that can take energy literally out of the air around it and give you the same amount of energy that would power an entire city. Once that happens, there won't be any need for money. Nobody will be poor, nobody will be homeless, nobody will be hungry. And not to mention, there won't be any illness. So that's going to happen if and when the world gets to that place that I've been taken to in my third dimensional body. So that is a promise. When that's going to happen, I don't know. But those beings made it very clear. Said, we're going to take you to the ascension frequency. And I went there. So I know this is coming. I know it's possible. The question is when. Changes in Earth consciousness in the last 5 years. So we got hit with these solar events in 2022. It's only been 3 years since that, but the shift in consciousness since 2012, really since 2001, for the past 20 plus years, the shift in consciousness has been monumental. And the consciousness shift is increasing exponentially. Even every day, it's exponentially shifting. Look what's happened politically just in the past couple of months. Look at what's happened in the revelation of all of the lies that have been hidden from us. Look at the shift in awareness that's happened just in the past few months. And now look at what's happened over the past few years. I could have never, just to give you one example, the Pentagon, the government, the Congress, and mainstream news in the United States all are trying to convince you that extraterrestrials exist. Now, they're lying to you. They want you to believe that extraterrestrials are a threat, and that's because of the, a certain color beam project that they want to do. Blue is my favorite color. It has to do with that. But the fact that all of that narrative-based programming is trying to get people who don't believe in extraterrestrials, trying to get them to believe that extraterrestrials exist and are coming to Earth, just that in and of itself is absolutely monumental in a shift. It's a huge awakening. And the result of that is that people who didn't want anything to do with extraterrestrials are now going to be looking at what they are, which means people like me who are, I've communicated with more extraterrestrials than I can count. More different species, more different varying levels at different dimensions, more than I can possibly count. And so people are going to be looking for people like me soon. Right now, I'm still kind of, I've got a tiny little channel and people think I'm bonkers. And I don't blame them. But pretty soon, people like me, we're going to be the experts. People are going to be coming to us wanting to know about this. The frequency shift, higher dimensional energies, all of that. Meditation and shifting to higher dimensions is going to become the norm. It's going to be the most important thing to people very soon. And part of that is because the Pentagon, the Congress, and mainstream news are trying to convince everybody that extraterrestrials exist. In fact, all of the UAP, drone nonsense. There are people that are flipping out. What is going on? Their understanding of the world is changing. And even though the dark forces are doing this in the attempt of trying to frighten people, what it's going to do, it's going to make them open up to new possibilities. And more people are going to start doing CE5 and interdimensional meditation. And it's going to, once we start creating all these wormholes to higher dimensions with our consciousness, that energy is going to come in and just the whole thing's going to go up. And there's going to be open contact with actual extraterrestrials. We're on the verge of everything shifting. The question isn't when. No, the question isn't if. The question is when. Changes in the political climate since January. We already talked about that. What will the Earth be like in 5 years? That's really the question. I've heard a couple different people say that they've had visions of themselves, being old and being in a completely different world. Now, I don't like that because I want it to happen now. and I'm already gray-haired. I'm already looking. I can see the end. It's not here now. I got a while left to go. I'm doing pretty good. Somebody recently mistook me for a 45-year-old. Huge boost to my ego, and I'm not 45. So that feels good. However, I want it to happen now. I don't want to wait. So the question is, what's going to happen in the next 5 years, the next 10 years? And then we have one last question, which I didn't put down here, but I got the specific communication, and maybe I misinterpreted it. Maybe it'll take a while for me to truly understand it. But I got the specific communication, and it wasn't a verbal communication. It was in other ways, but it was a very clear message, which is that there's going to be 3 different frequencies at which humans are going to exist. One is going to be a lower frequency, which is awful. That's like we're talking smart cities and 1984 and lots of this and, lots of, horrible things. Living a hell and being, living in a world where you're constantly being attacked and there's war and, mass, everything. Mass horrible, fill in the blank. Second, the second frequency is going to be similar to the third dimension that we have now, except it will have gone through a collapse. There will have been a civilization collapse where the banks will have collapsed, the governments will have collapsed, and people will be living in communities. But it'll be fairly similar to where things are now, but people will be shifting more towards a community-based, getting rid of all the technology, and perhaps technology will be gone altogether, something like that. That's going to be the second level. And then the third level will be the one that I mentioned to you, where it's a heaven on earth. And everybody is connected to all of the stars, the planets, the sand, the trees, the plants, the animals will be connected to each other. We'll have open contact with higher dimensional beings and extraterrestrials. Religion, as we know it, will be gone. We will just have pure spirituality. Science and religion will become the same thing. People will be able to heal themselves completely with their mind. Perhaps they'll be able to live, hundreds of years, and it'll just be a heaven on earth. So I can't guarantee that, and I'm open to change my interpretation of it, but that, I've talked about that 3 octaves of frequencies. So that's my latest understanding of the solar flash, and what I'm trying to do now these days is I'm trying to summarize everything that I've learned. First couple of years you just saw me going off on this and my experiences, and now I've had some time to be able to go back and look at things and see what's what. So there you go. And if you want to have an accelerated experience of this, then the only way to do that is to do what I've done. So this is why twice a week we do these live guided interdimensional meditations, and I give them away for free. And if you show up here at 8:30 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday and Saturday, these meditations are here. But I want to continue to expand this, which is why I have created, or we, light beings and myself, have created the Guided Interdimensional Meditation Series, which you can get at meditations.thunderwizard.com. Now, this is slightly different from the live guided interdimensional meditations, which are meant primarily as a global unification, where we're going out and we're focusing our energy to shift planet Earth as a whole and people on planet Earth. These meditations are specifically focused on individual transformation. So these are the things that we all think about: prosperity, career, relationships, health, joy, opportunity, and there will be a final one which will be a gift, and that is spiritual power. So that is the one, if you get the whole package, you can get spiritual power. I may include it over here. So how do you get a hold of these? So you can go to, where am I? You can go to meditations.thunderwizard.com, and if you purchase that, then what will happen is follow the instructions there, send it friends and family so I don't have to pay taxes. And then what I'll do is I will email you all of the actual video files. Now, I've only made 3 and uploaded 3 of them. So those of you, a couple people have already bought the whole package. You're going to have to wait, day, week or so, for me to get all of them together. But, I will get them all to you. The other way to get them is you can get the first one, which is prosperity. You can get that one. Wait, where is it? You can get that one for free if you subscribe to the thunderwizard.com Patreon site. Now, not for free. You have to subscribe at the Interdimensional meditation or above. Now, I recommend that you subscribe at the level just above that, which is, I think, is only $5 more a month, and that is the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, because you'll have access to all of those other practices as well. I am doing these meditations because I want this. Why is that important to you? Because I am very passionate about bringing into my life absolutely everything I've ever wanted. I am more hungry to live life to the max than I ever have been. So that means I'm going to design meditations for me, and this is what I'm recording. I'm recording these meditations as I am looking for these things, which means you're going to get. I'm not going to be giving you something, that I'm just kind of making to, let's throw this out there. And, I have other channels where I just throw stuff out there to see what happens. This is, I'm getting the best for myself and I'm sharing it with you. So it's like you are literally meditating with me as I am seeking to expand and grow. So if you want prosperity for free, go ahead and subscribe here to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong at thunderwizard.com. You can go to the shop if you just want to buy each one of them by themselves. And if you want to get the whole package and have the video files, then you can go to meditations.thunderwizard.com, and I will email you specifically each one of those video files, and you can keep it on your computer and put it on your phone, do whatever the heck you want. These meditations here are designed to be done more than once on a regular basis. Now, you can do that with the interdimensional meditations that are already archived. There's no reason why you can't do that. I think there are some really powerful ones, like the ones we did on October 14th. No, August 14th. That one was hugely powerful. And any of them are good. Some of them are really, really good. I forget. I do them so much I forget. But these ones should be done on a regular basis. You want more prosperity, you have to reprogram and expand into that. So keep doing that meditation. If you have the file, you can do that. If you're streaming it, you can still do it. But if you have it on your computer, I'd prefer to have that. But I don't really care. Whatever works for you. If you want to really focus on your career, your relationships. That was the most recent one I just did, and holy crap, that one was powerful. That one blew me wide open. You go do it, you'll find out. It went into some places, and the power that I experienced, and I'm still experiencing from it. These things can be done on a regular basis. If you do this on a regular basis, the level of transformation that you will experience, there hasn't been anything like it on planet Earth. I know, because I have taught and experienced the most powerful spiritual practices the Earth has had up until this point. There's been nothing like this. So go check those out. And of course, if you want to support the channel directly, you can go to support.thunderwizard.com, follow the instructions there. And you already know to go here if you want to subscribe. And my books can be found at michaelwilliamdenny.com. Again, a lot of people want to talk to me about ETs. They want to argue with me. They want to tell me what so-and-so said and this person said. And I already know you haven't read my books. So go to michaelwilliamdenny.com. You see there at the bottom there. And get my books. It's inexpensive. And read that before you start dumping comments on my channel about, this channel said this and some guy said that. Make sure that, it's in line with what I teach. Not that you need to believe what I teach, but it's a waste of your time throwing down a comment when you're just, I'm just going to get annoyed. Don't annoy me. It's okay. You can annoy me. All right. So I think we're done. I think that's it. I think that's everybody. So that's it, my friends. I love you all. Please be very good to yourselves. I will see you day after tomorrow, and we will do another live guided meditation. So that's it, my friends. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. I appreciate those of you that stick with this channel and support this channel. And I really appreciate you also because you're doing the work, you're doing these meditations. You are responsible for the shift that is happening. It wouldn't be happening if you weren't doing these live guided meditations. It wouldn't be happening. You are literally the most powerful humans on this planet. Nobody knows about it. Donald Trump doesn't know that you saved his life on August 14th when you did that meditation, and you did. I know because the light beings told me that we did. This is how powerful you are, and this is, I can't thank you enough for being part of that with me. I love you all. Please be very good to yourselves. I will see you all very soon.